And there's loads of old ladies like, like jumping around. I think gyrocopters and the kind of the X-Force in general has been hit very hard recently by people teching into playing against Cathay.
Very, very quickly, I'll do the intro in a second. So you said steam guns, you said clatter guns. You mentioned, I think when you guys were doing the list review, you talked about brimstone guns. I'd be really interested to see, or rather, I'll ask you a question when we get that far. But I really want to know your thoughts of the three choices and ultimately what.
I think you've changed on that, right?
So you're talking about Aku's list from Finland, right? Like I love Aku. Like he's awesome. Really nice to meet him in person. I tested his list, and I think he will be probably one of the first people to tell you, if you do get him on the channel as well, that it didn't work.
Oh, no. Was that because he didn't pair into the balloons, or it just didn't execute on the balloons?
The problem you've got is the fact that they don't have move and shoot. So they're strength 5. They can potentially get more average shots than a clatter gun. So it's the D3 + 1. So you're averagely getting more. But the problem is that on the normal gyrocopters, you're going to be hitting on 5s, 6, or 7s. Yeah. I think gyrocopters and the kind of the X-Force in general has been hit very hard recently by people teching into playing against Cathay. So I think potentially going forward, the steam gun is probably a nice pivot to go into to kind of get around that, like and potentially like a Ranger Star rather than a Thunder Star. Like we're going to have to start evolving the dwarf lists, because a lot of people are getting the -2, the -3 to hit, or they're going to be sitting inside of ruins, for instance, and then that's a native -2. At long range, it's -3. And there's a lot of shenanigans that like Tomb Kings can do. Like I think there's a particular Tomb Kings build that can get to -6, -7 to be shot at. Which is just ruins our day, right? But obviously if you've got like flame templates, or you're doing bombing runs, so like we're doing lots and lots of testing this end. Like obviously I'm not currently Team England captain anymore. That's going up for voting very soon. I think the proposals go out today. I think I have sent my proposal in, so fingers crossed. Yes, yeah. Well, the tournament lineup for next year it comes pretty quick. So the first big one that we've got is Six Nations, which is going to be in March. So like that's a big international event against some of the strongest teams in the world. Actually, like it's got like Italy there as well. Like France is there. And Italy's very, very strong. Obviously, they won the first ever WTC last year. Love playing against them. Amazing dudes, like everyone's amazing. Michele, the captain, great guy. Everyone's amazing. But so that isn't very long to start getting testing. So the captain needs to get voted in, and then they need to be able to put the team together so the team can start practicing. It's not you need hundreds of games to practice. And the thing is, it's quite nice. Like we do all of the hard work so that people going to singles tournaments can be like, okay, that works. I'll take that kind of thing. So it is one of them, right? So
not
it's like,
looking at anyone particular on this call. No. Just no. But sorry, go on.
Not that both my dwarf armies are literally a copy.
On that, let's do the intro. We'll probably keep all of this stuff in, but frankly, let's do the intro to get us started. Welcome, everybody, to episode 13 of the Old World Behemoths podcast. We have a very special guest with us this evening. But before we introduce him, I am Alistair. I'm a behemoth because last night I dug out of my glass cabinet a Charybdis, a Hydra, and I sent Alex the files for a Manticore that I wanted to print for the 1,000-point tournament that we're going to at the end of November. With me this evening, I have Alex. Alex, why are you a behemoth?
I'm a behemoth because I like to skew my lists into killing behemoths. Unless I'm bringing the fat man himself, the Great Unclean One.
Which, I mean, let's not get into that tonight, but I feel like there will be a return from Australia's top Renegades demon player. But with us, as I aforementioned, very special guest, we have Richy from Dawi After Dark. Welcome, Richy. Why are you a behemoth?
Hey, right, guys. Absolute pleasure to be on the channel. So I am a behemoth because I will never take a behemoth, but I do like slaying them, though.
Rock and stone, baby.
Rock and stone.
I don't think there's a bigger behemoth statement than that. And I'm sure your thousands of viewers will hold you to that sentiment, Richy. Quick thank you to all of our patrons. Death1942, Ghost, Panda Wargaming, Joshua, Six, Silver Dave, Gomo, Bonehead, Earl of Kent, Ulized, Western Sydney Wargamers, The Orange Juicer, Big Daddy H, and our very newest patron, Torytown69, with the most fabulous name. Thank you to 25 Creative, our graphic design support. Now, I've been able to talk for 2 minutes, which means that it's Alex's turn. I think Alex has a few questions for you, Richy.
Well, I don't think we can move past talking to Richy without the massive elephant in the room, which is the WTC win. Of note, if you haven't been living under a rock, this is absolutely not the place you're going to find out this news on this channel. But we did want to pass over it, right? Because thanks, Richy. I know we've been chatting for a while, and you're going to come on, and absolutely, it was like, yep, let's just focus on Worlds. I wanted to get your check on, what it meant to be there. I put on here a bit of a gaff on the Black Widow Spider, the fact that a championship team literally needs to go through hell, including becoming Spider-Man, to actually achieve that. So why don't we start there? Just give us a quick rundown of what it meant right back at the start when you boys got together and said, let's just go for it. Let's create a team.
So it was an immense privilege. So we basically went into the creation of the Team England. The way that we were thinking about it from the start is that we needed to do this as fairly and as democratically as possible, basically. So Fred approached Sam Freestone. He was quite prominent in the 9th Age community. Fred is one of the organizers from the WTC, like he's in charge of it all, basically, to try and create an English chairman role. And then Fred then kind of just started creating the WTC. Sam then went forward, contacted me, and then we basically started to get a Discord together, talking to people in the community, like all of the tournament players in the UK, and then just tried to create a community of people that wanted to get involved in Team England. And then we started the democratic process of voting people in. So I put my name forward to be captain, as I had a vision for how I wanted the international team to be represented abroad, which was very good players, yes, but that's not the first thing. I wanted them to be gentlemen at the tabletop, people that people actually enjoyed playing against. And that is something that's one of the biggest takeaways from Worlds. I don't know if you've read any of the comments that have been on the videos about it, that the other teams really enjoyed playing against us. And that's something that was really, really important for me. So it's absolute killers on the tabletop, but then at the same time, pleasures to play against. So once we got all of the applications in, England has a massive player base. So our player base on the Old World rankings done by Gomo, thank you very much, mate. We have more players than the USA does going to tournaments. So it's a very, very big player pool. Obviously, it is the country where Warhammer originated, so it does definitely have so it does have a massive cult following here. And since Games Workshop destroyed the world that was, bringing it back, it's just very, very popular here. So we had lots and lots of good players apply. So once I was put in as captain, I managed to get the my other staff in, so got in Tom as vice, and then got the coaches in, so got Alex in as coach, and then we started going through and picking the different players. So the kind of application process for this, it was semi-based on your rankings at the time, but then also we wanted to speak to people about them as well. So it was based on rankings, and also we would go around and be like, right, this person, are they sound? What are they like at tournaments? All this kind of stuff. Because it was the first year, we didn't particularly know what we were kind of getting into with it, really. So what we did is we picked specific armies that we wanted that were good in the meta at that point in time, and then we picked faction specialists for that. So there would be, so for instance, there was 3 Tomb King's different variant builds at that point. We picked that we wanted to go for a dragon push army at the beginning, which is the Phil Carl special. So it's got the double dragon, the double necro, that stuff. And the person that was highest in the rankings with that at the time was Scott. There was like some really, really good other Tomb King players that applied for that role that were higher up in the rankings, but they were playing Mortuary Cult at the time. And we felt like we wanted to run this build. So then Scott got in for that. And it just turns out that he's just brilliant at the game and an absolutely lovely bloke. I genuinely just couldn't be prouder of every single person on the team. It was an amazing year. The amount of hard work and effort that everyone's put in behind the scenes has been insane. Like, I can't express enough how many hundreds of hours that everyone has practiced for, shifted through lists, innovating as well. A lot of the lists that you see at tournaments now have been created by these boys. And I can't say how proud I am. It's been a lot of hard work. There's been a lot of graft behind the scenes for sure.
Absolutely.
So
to our benefit, I must say.
Well, we
to the
try,
benefit
right?
of the community at large. Yeah.
We try. Yeah, we just wanted to be almost like spokespeople for the community, basically. Like, we do have some very influential people in the team, which we're all quite thankful for. But we started to then go into tournaments with it. Like, we went over to Italy to go play in a tournament over there just to see what the European meta is like. For anyone, obviously this is mainly focused to like people in Sydney and Australia, right? But if you go and take your army that you're playing in your meta and you go to a different meta, it's quite easy to tell the disparities in how different people play the game and how people create their armies. So we wanted to get into the Euro meta, just see how they were playing. Like, it would have been really nice to get over to the USA as well, but it's just like costs and stuff, really.
They came to you.
They did, and it was lovely to see them all as well. I managed to get a t-shirt off Cody as well, actually, so I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to frame it.
Frame it with a big skull and crossbones on it, just to show the failure of the USA team. No, so following shade thrown. Following on from that point specifically, so. With Australia, we've got a landmass, as large as the United States. We've got 26 million people, which is a third of the UK's. We have quite disparate metas state to state, which is quite interesting. So we have quite different approaches based on ultimately where your geographical location says you're going to get the most games. Now, Europe is obviously a little bit more unified in that I can drive an hour and a half from Germany into the heart of France and go to Switzerland and Italy along the way. I'm generalizing, but how did you find the metas? I mean, obviously the UK has a big and broad and quite established meta, a way of playing the old world. Was it different just for Europe as a whole? Was it different for the individual companies and countries and teams that you ended up facing at WTC?
So it's a really interesting one. So the UK doesn't actually have just one meta, weirdly enough. So obviously the UK is really small. So you could drive an hour to somewhere else and it pay completely differently. Like, there's some tournaments that run the Renegades. There's some tournaments that run no comp. There's some that run heavily comped. There's some that are using like the pool comp. So they're even inside of England. So there's almost like a fractured comp, which is kind of crazy, right, considering how small England is. And then it's very similar in Europe as well. Like, the Germans were playing with German comp, which limits the amount of behemoths. So you probably wouldn't want to go play in Germany. But no, like, it's cool. I like the German comp. So they've basically like heavily comped it to make it more interactive for the players. So anything that is too obnoxious, they'll kind of scale that back. France has its own kind of meta as well. And yeah, like Italy, they're more focused on like hyper aggressive plays. Whereas in England, we've kind of got our own thing. We're shooting rules over here. So if you've got a shooting army, you'll win the tournaments. And it, like, USA just and Italy and stuff just couldn't understand why our meta was so shooty. But then obviously if you play those hyper aggressive aggro builds into shooting armies, then you kind of understand, right? Just because you get shot off the table.
Richie Alistair plays Nuln.
Nice.
With 180 shots a turn, is it? Or 280? Which one was it?
Not quite. So my flirtation, we're going to talk about me for a bit. My flirtation with Nuln began long before many of the most recent Nuln lists ended up popping up. But my passion project for probably the last 9 months has been getting 40-something, 50-something cavalry painted and ready to go to debut at an event where I can run the maximum possible palatable number of Outriders for a Sydney event, and we've yet to do that. We are speaking of metas. We are quite subject to an undead meta at the moment. There's controversy around that and the treatment of undead players in combination with Legacy and Tomb Kings. I mean, obviously, I'm watching just a fraction of the lists on one of the videos that you did around WTC. Obviously, there's something of a quite popular undead theme. I didn't see the list breakdowns. Do you know what factions were most popular at WTC, or do you think it was maybe a little bit more constructed in that everyone took a combination of things to sort of cover off?
So I'm probably going to be doing that when I film on Wednesday. So I'm going to be filming with the team manager, Alex. We're probably going to be doing a really number crunchy video. So the last one about WTC was just kind of for entertainment. The next one's going to be number crunchy. But I can definitely say that I think every team had vampires. But why wouldn't you? Well, not every team had Cathay actually. But why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want something with double regen? Why wouldn't you want an unbreakable army? It's an objective game now at the end of the day, and why not take the strongest army on objectives, I suppose?
So did they allow the double regen at WTC?
They did, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's interesting because we talk about this a lot with guests and other things. You know, Australia is such a remote outpost in many ways that we almost play a different type of Warhammer down here in Sydney. I will say, I think we have one claim to fame, Alistair, and credit to the Western Sydney Wargamer guys. I think Australia now holds the records for the most concurrent large single day event in the world, which is 40 players every 12 weeks consistently.
Or less. Yeah. So I think we've had 6 tournaments in less than 12 months with the WSWG guys, and they're at 40 players every time that they run it. For quick shout out, I suppose, to those boys, and a little bit of context for you, Richy. So they started thinking, what can we do to help grow this community, which seems to be taking off in all the other states. You know, Victoria had a really vibrant scene for a while. Western Australia, which no one expected, had this massive event series. And the boys sort of took it upon themselves to think, well, how can we make this interesting and appealing? And they've changed. Every single tournament has been slightly different, thinking about comps and metas and everything. They've really helped shape the way that we approach Warhammer here. I think it is interesting. We've just had an enormous event called Moab, which is a sort of annual event every year, where it was 5 games over 2 days, all individual play.
It's like the LGT.
Yes. And that's had from a data standpoint, that's had some really interesting outcomes that may inform how people play Warhammer down here for the next little while. But to pivot ever so slightly, so you mentioned going to Italy, and you mentioned playing over there to get a bit of an understanding of what that meta was like and how things were going. I have 2 questions. The first, I mean, Warhammer gets translated into any number of different languages. How did you find playing Warhammer against an array of, I mean, was it a requirement that a lot of teams looked at and said, we need you to be able to speak English?
I mean, did they all speak English?
Yeah. So we're just really lucky that most countries, their second language is English. So
That's
most
true.
of the ITCs and like ETCs, and especially the WTC as well, it's a requirement to speak English at the tabletop, which was really weird. Well, yeah. So it was really weird when we were in the Alpine Cup event in Italy, and 2 Italian teams are playing against each other and speaking English to each other, which is just really weird.
Wow.
Obviously, this obviously this kind of harks back to the days where the English tried to just plant flags everywhere, right? But yeah, like we're just so lucky to have that. And it's insane as well. Like one of the funniest comments that you get at any tournament is they'll come up to you and be like, right, I'm really sorry, my English isn't very good. And I'll be like, mate, it's a fucking million times better than my Italian. Don't worry about it.
Because you and the USA were the only 2 like English speaking countries.
Was it
like
wasn't there a Welsh team?
Yeah. So
yeah,
we forget about them.
Wales and Scotland as well, if you can call Scottish English, I suppose. But
I'll settle down. We don't need that sort of controversy.
We'll put that one
here.
in for pass.
So I actually have 3 questions. The second question is a slightly facetious one. When can we expect the English Lions tour of Australia? When can we sort of when's that going to happen?
Well, I'll tell you what, if you can sort out a teams tournament you want to invite us to, I'm sure the next Team England captain will definitely take you up on that, I can imagine.
All right.
Well, we do
I'll hold
have
them
a teams tournament. We do have a teams tournament coming up. It's teams of 2, Richy, 1,000 points each.
So are doubles.
Yeah. For no, it's not. It's not doubles. Let's be very clear. What they've done is they've divided a 6x4 down the middle, and you play concurrent games that do not interact with each other side by side. So it's really interesting, and we'll see. We'll do a future video on that.
Can cannonballs interact though? Because that'd be really funny.
No, nothing.
It would
Not
be
a
funny.
thing.
It would be funny.
I mean, look, we've had this discussion. There was a venue that we did an event at quite a while ago where quite a small space. And fitting sort of 16 people in there meant board after board after board, short edge aligned right up against one another. And despite our lobbying, we couldn't quite convince the organisers to allow us, Empire and other artillery-bearing factions, to be able to shoot onto other boards, no matter how entertaining that would have been. Okay, my third question relates to stepping back to Italy. You had a great time there where you definitely didn't get injured or sick or anything, right?
No, so it's kind of a running joke in the team now that I either get like ill or injured at any tournament. And yeah, in Italy, we got a little bit merry on the Friday night, drank too much wine. We were having a good time. And you know the scene in Jurassic Park when they're like, don't go into the long grass. I went into the long grass and for all of your viewers, basically in England, there's nothing poisonous here. We killed it all hundreds of years ago. Like we culled everything that could hurt us in this country. Like there's nothing yet. Like there's an adder, but they're hiding. Like you'll never see one. So I just forgot that there's stuff that can like hurt you basically. So I'm there like walking through this field, like tootling about. I didn't even notice getting bit. So I got bit by a European black widow. Didn't notice it. The next day, my leg starts to swell up. It's kind of hurting. So I just assumed I'd been bit by a horsefly or something. My missus was there as well. So we took partners with us to the tournament so they could have like a little breakaway. So she got me like some bug stuff.
Yeah,
so I was like putting the bug stuff on,
sort of thing. Yeah.
And I was like, it's not doing anything. And my leg was like weeping and like got really hard. And I was like, shit. So she went and got me a bandage. And then it like started to go black on the Sunday. But because we've been stood up all day playing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm there captaining. My vice is looking at me like, fucking hell, he's going to die soon. I'm just like pale and stuff. Like pushed through and my legs started to go black. And on the Sunday, so I got bit on the Friday, and this is on the Sunday. The tournament finished. We'd done it all. I got back to the hotel and just collapsed. But really luckily, so it's really weird. So I got this like really bad luck for getting bit by one of them. But at the same time, luckily in our hotel, we were having after drinks. And the one Italian that had come to drink with us was friends with a paramedic. So he rung him up and then was like, right, he's been bit by a spider. You need to get the ambulance there now. He rung the ambulance, translated for us completely, and then sent me off to hospital straight away where I got the antivenom and stuff. So
Fabulous.
Like, it was really bad luck to get. No, this was afterwards. Luckily, yeah. Push through the entire event, and then as soon as the adrenaline, like as soon as the adrenaline wore off, I was like, "Poof, gone." Yeah. But
can I offer one?
Don't come to Australia.
One modicum of advice should you end up in Australia. You get bitten by something, you go to the hospital straight away.
Yeah,
because
or you just die.
Our local Black Widow variant, as I'm sure you're aware, is the redback spider, which can cause death within 2 hours. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Listen to your body.
Funnel webs coming up the
Richy.
drains and toilets.
Yeah.
Like sliding up toilet seats. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's not good for me. It was like at Home Nations as well. So we played at Home Nations up in Newcastle, and I had like the flu or COVID or something. And I was like, I blew my nose so many times that I'd burst the blood vessels in my nose and it wouldn't stop bleeding the entire event. So I'm just like blood everywhere. And the funniest moment from that, we managed to win that as well, by the way. So congrats to all the boys.
I think that's the photo on the screen, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. But the funniest moment from that entire weekend is we're there in our England tops. We go for breakfast on the Sunday morning, right? So we're in this Weatherspoons, which is a pub in the UK, like a chain. And we have breakfast. I just have like porridge and fruit and stuff. And we walk out. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning. We're all wearing our England tops. And I go to cough and like loads of phlegm, this is gross, by the way, loads of phlegm just hits the back of my throat. Bear in mind, we're just walking up the like main street in Newcastle. There's people everywhere. And I just projectile vomit instantly everywhere in front of me. And there's loads of old ladies like, like jumping around. And like, I thought about it afterwards and I was like, the optics of that must have looked terrible. Like there's a group of guys in England
stumbling out of a pub
at 9 o'clock in the morning. I was like, that must have looked terrible. But that was funny. And then when we were in Worlds as well, I just caught something because we went over to Holland for a couple of days before. Me and the missus had a bit of a break to wind down before Worlds. So we could just kind of like, I could take my head out of it. Like there was nothing else I could do for the team the week before. We'd done all the practicing, they'd done all the work. So it was literally take my head out of it so that I could be kind of fresh faced for pairings and stuff with Tom. And I think I caught something in Holland. I'm just like an illness magnet apparently. And obviously when you're playing games and you're ill, you're trying to get rid of everything really quickly. So you're blowing your nose really hard, chucking it away, like, because you're trying to get back to it and all that kind of stuff. Burst my bloody blood vessel again. I'm there in my third game against France, looking like a bloody crackhead, like just bleeding everywhere.
Tissue up the nose.
Tissue up the nose. That was quite funny. It was bless him. So Max Hammer, my opponent, the dwarf player, so he actually went to his captain. He thought I'd had like a mini stroke because so I was bleeding. And I got really lightheaded because of like my nose was bleeding. So I was just there like knocking stuff over, but
just really aggressively leaning on the table.
Oh man. All right.
Yeah. So hopefully next time nothing happens, right?
No. I mean, look, I feel like you should wear one of those bracelets that says, "My name is Richy. I belong to. Please call this person in case of emergency." But Alex, we should move on. But before we do, go back, please. Because I'm not going to let you fanboy off. Just do you have any other questions for Richy? Because I know you've got a bunch of dwarf stuff to talk to in a second.
There's a lot of dwarf stuff. Well, I think we did have one question from one of the other podcast channels here, the 2 Plus podcast, and Alex Brown wanted to ask about pairings and the process because we do have we joke about a teams event coming out. There has been one teams event in Australia. It was Snake Eyes down in Melbourne. They're going to kill me for getting the number wrong. I think there was 66 players, something like that. People, so a fairly decent size, but teams of 3. Richy, not obviously the size WTC, but that's pretty good showing.
They did. If you ever see a picture, they did enforce a tradition of the captain had to wear a sailor's captain cap,
sailor's hat,
and it is the most precious thing that you've ever seen. 30 men in a room full of 60, all 60 or 90 people, all wearing hats.
We're going to go on a massive hyperbole here, but they have this venue, Richy, which is literally a brewery, and then they've got, what are we going to do with the rest of the space? And they've turned it into this den of gaming tables for something like 40 tables. Yes.
It's a brilliant strategy.
Yeah.
Absolutely
how Australian could that be? It should have been in Sydney.
Like it should have been called Bugman's as well, right? That would have been really
missed
good.
Opportunity, really.
Missed opportunity.
Also,
or
maybe a
touch
of copyright infringement.
No, it's fine. But, Bugman's with a Z. There you go.
Yeah, that's great. No one knows. But the thing was, we're so used to singles, thinking about singles and pairing. So when you guys started the process, I know Tom was commenting previously on the video, and you said, I think the same with Ed, was like just full on, just every combination possible. But how much, this might be a dumb question, how much of going into the match do you put into the pairings versus player ability to just pull out a draw if they need to, if it's a bad matchup?
So the pairings are what win you tournaments. If you have bad pairings, you lose. It doesn't matter if you have the best player in the world. If you're running, say, I don't know. So if you're running Orcs and Goblins they get paired into Cathay, they will lose. They will lose massively. Whereas if you can put something into them that can potentially beat them, like Mortkol, or even something that's going to grind out a draw, then that over 8 players, the score cascades. Yeah. So if they don't manage to get that extra 10 points from that round, and then you've managed to win another game bigger, it's honestly like there's a lot of it on the players to be able to get the maximum score they can, but the pairings are so important for that. I would genuinely say it's probably about 50-50, I think.
Okay. And there was one quick follow-up question. I think the team manager or some of the coaches, you said, were literally walking around monitoring the games.
Constantly.
And do they have the ability, because I know in some game systems it's not kosher to walk up to somebody whilst they're playing a game and give advice or anything like that. Does that still exist in teams, or is it go for your life?
No. So basically, Alex, who's the current team manager, he doesn't actually play that much Old World. He's coming at this from a more analytic perspective. Like, he really likes the game, but he doesn't play at the same level that we do. Obviously, he plays, but he doesn't play at the same level. So he couldn't say, look at a game and be like, right, this is the current state, this person's going to win. Whereas other coaches were walking around and looking and guessing how they thought it was going. And I personally think that was an advantage for us, having someone that didn't try to guess. So like, we had like little whiteboards where we were writing down the scores. Yep. So like all of the secondary, all of the primary, writing down what we'd killed, writing down what they'd killed. So he could take an exact analytical approach to working out how the score was going to be, basically. And then he would come up to me, call a timeout, and just be like, right, so on the predicted, we're meant to get this. We're 2 points down. You need to push. And he's like, so like, I was playing against Cathay, against Belgium, which is a horrendous matchup for me. Like, that's a 20-0 for them. Like, it's awful. I can't hide. They can turn off my fly. They can delete 1 or 2 units of balloons a turn, like of my gyrocopters a turn. Sorry, I run balloon ones. Like, they can delete 2 or 3 units a turn. Like, they can just go ham on dwarves, especially my list. They can just annihilate it. But I put myself into the Cathay so that other lists didn't have to, and they could go hunting and get us big point wins. So I put down a 1. Like, 1 point was expected off me in that game. I was like, I reckon I can hide a cannon from not getting killed. I reckon if one
cannon.
Yeah. I was like, if I just spread out and just run away the entire game, don't even interact with them and just run, I reckon I can get 1 point. Luckily, I've practiced this game to death into Tom, so I know it's bad. Like, I know it's a bad matchup for me. But Alex came up to me and he was like, right, mate, we're potentially going to lose this round. A couple of the games aren't going the way that they're meant to be going. What's the max points you can get me? And I was like, right, it's fucking, you're coming to me on turn 4. Like, this is bad. This is really bad. And I was like, right, I'm gonna play my ass off, mate, and I'll try and get you an extra 2 points. And I actually managed to get a 4, so I'm really happy about that. Done. Something I would like to say about teams Warhammer as well. It's really good because your individual score is so important for the entire round, but no one really loses a game teams because you're always getting scores. Like, even if you get 19 ones, you've managed to get 1 point for the team. And that's a really nice way to think about it. Like, you never actually lose at teams unless you get 20-0'd, but you're going to try not to get 20-0'd, right? So any points that you can like draw back, like, I want to just shout out James Ramsey, who was on our team. He played into Cathay 3 times and he managed to get a 5 in most of those games as well. Like, an absolute hero. And that is just as important as like the Charlie, the Dave, the Steve, and Tom and stuff hunting those 20-0s, because if they hunt those 20-0s, but it doesn't go as well and they get a 15-5, because James has managed to get 5 more points, that's counteracted that. And stuff like that. It's really good. It's a really nice mentality to get into when you're playing Teams Warhammer. It's like, if you lose, it doesn't really matter. Like, you just try and get as many points as you can. And a really interesting one as well that I found is like the strongest armies and those that we try and get the best like matchups for, when they win a game, they're expected to win a game, right? They're expected to win that. You'll go up to them and be like, oh, well done, mate. Awesome. That's congratulations. If someone manages to score like 5 points into Cathay, everyone's around that table and they're like, yes, you know what I mean? And it's just really funny. Like,
Richy, we're like sweet baby virgins down here because we haven't had Cathay land yet. Quite literally.
No, look, no, that's not entirely
that's not true.
That's not entirely true.
Yesterday they had 5 rings of jet at the tournament.
But It is certainly not, at least in singles tournaments, certainly not, I feel, having the impact that we may have prophesied that it would. But that aside, cafe aside, because let's not talk about balloons anymore unless they happen to be attached to your gyrocopters. I think that sentiment is actually a really beautiful one for us to move on to our next sort of discussion topic, because you do have, and it's actually been really lovely and refreshing to listen to you talk around your approach to WTC, the team building approach. It's an enormously positive way to look at community building for Warhammer The Old World. This is something I'm very passionate about. It's part of what our projects over the next little while are focused on. It's building community. It's introducing new players to the game. As we pointed out earlier on, you are the homeland for Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer The Old World, which means that you have a much broader player base to draw upon, refreshing into the game. We're in a point where there is, while we're a bit slower to adopt things, there are a lot of things going on gaming and tabletop wise here in Australia. And so when it comes to the old world, and I'm sure this is reflected in most places around the world, the average age of players is probably on the higher end. And we want to make sure that we're trying to introduce as many people to the game as we can to sort of sustain it. Like Alex and I both have kids.
Yeah.
We both have a vision of what that looks like when our kids are old enough to appreciate and be interested in a game like the old world, given our history with it and our relationship with it. But Alex, why don't you take us over to the next slide? Because I think it's worth us talking a little bit around, and I know you lamented this a little bit earlier in talking about you spent a lot of time on dwarves, which means that GW targeted dwarves for nerfs. But I think there's an enormous positive influence to the way that you talk about dwarves. I feel like dwarves were seen, at least in a competitive sense, as not being able to compete, and you've not once, but I think twice or three times sort of proved that's the case through royal hosts, royal clans, thank you, and expeditionary force. So I suppose what facial tattoos aside, because there are some recognizable parts of you that lend themselves towards it. What drives you to be interested in dwarves?
I don't know. I just think it's kind of everything about them, really. Like in the old world, they're kind of empire aside, they're kind of the underdogs, right? They don't use magic because they don't want to. They don't have behemoths because they don't want to. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't need any of that kind of stuff. They just literally march out of their holds. Everything is about the clans. Everything's about family. It's about tradition. And I just kind of love that sentiment, right? Like, and the grudges as well. Like, it's, if somebody pissed off your granddad, you're going to go kill their grandson, like 100 years later. And it's just, I just love that kind of like sentiment that they have. Like, it's just all about family. It's all about community. And it's just like remembering the past as well. And it's coming from a state of nostalgia that gets you into old world. Like, dwarves were my first ever full army that I painted when I was a kid, and the nostalgia that I have for the dwarves, it just kind of outweighs any urge to play any other army ever again. I think, like, for me, they're perfect, I think. And the other thing is as well, there's such a hard army to use and such a hard army to master as well. That was one of the main reasons that I specifically started the channel to start with. Is I was going to tournaments and I was doing okay. But the international kind of scene with dwarves is no one could even win a game, really. Like, they were doing terribly. And I just wanted to try and share like hints and tips of kind of what I was doing, which was winning me stuff. And I'm really proud to say that in the first year of Old World, one of the reasons I actually managed to get team captain on Team England is because I managed to win the most GTs in the UK in a year, and that was with dwarves. So that wasn't with one of the most broken armies. That was with trial and error and throwing anything at the wall that would stick and just trying to find out what works. And I find more fun trying to break a perceived weaker faction than I ever would trying to play something that's really strong and makes people cry. I want the opponent to have a really good game playing into me. So like we're there shouting like about like settling grudges and stuff, and it's just fun. Like I love that. Like I want to have a really good game with my opponent, and yeah, I want them to have a good game too, and hopefully they do into dwarves, right? It's why I'm working on the Slayers at the moment. It's just fun.
which I promise we
will talk about. We will talk about. We've gone down that rabbit hole, but we touched on it before. I mean, I totally agree with you. Everyone was lamenting dwarves. Oh, it's so bad. It's tragedy. Again, the 2+ boys said, you know, outside of Richy, it's unwinnable, etc. But what's been interesting is this following of the emotions that that your channel has kind of instilled with its popularity, which is Royal Clans. Oh my gosh, it's coming. The Royal Clans coming. Richy's list is coming. Everyone stumbled onto that, jumped onto that. Expeditionary Force, they're trash, terrible. What the hell's a Sapper? Doesn't do anything. Then suddenly, Entrenchment is the most broken thing in the game. And
probably
giving people nightmares.
The most debated rule in our local community of the last 12 months, to be perfectly honest.
Well, they're a really interesting one. So I was running X-Force before 1.5 come out. So I had the first year I was playing Grand Army, obviously, until the Arcane Journal come out. Then as soon as the Arcane Journal come out, I was like, right, I want to use my king. I want to get the Royal Clans going. I want me king marching out of his hold with his best mates. And then played that to death. And then when it got to January, I was like, right, everyone's using the Royal Clans list. I was like, right, it's time to try and find something else. So I swapped over to the Gyrocopter list. I didn't lose a game with the Gyrocopter list before 1.5. So that was pre-using Sappers. That was pre-using any of that. Yeah. I didn't lose a single competitive game with them. So I don't think you need to rely on the Sappers and stuff. It's just a really nice tool. Obviously, I do appreciate the fact that it is hotly debated. I am hoping for another FAQ about it. There has been 2 FAQs so far about Earthen Ramparts, and they just can't get the wording right.
Can't get it right. Richy, I've sent 20 emails to GW about it.
The first one, I can't remember which number FAQ it was. It was the one before this one. There was wording about it, and I read it, and I was like, is that meant to mean that? And then we spoke to some other people, and they're like, no, we're not doing that. And then some tournament organizers were like, yeah. So all of the low linear obstacles, they stop impact hits and stuff. And it's like, just nobody could agree on it. And then it was like, right, okay, we're just going to ignore this. It's too vague. and then the last FAQ, it's like, okay, right, they obviously stop everything. Impact hits, attacks, everything. You go down to 1 attack, boom, done. I do appreciate the fact that it is hotly debated. I know over in the California scene, they don't play that it stops multi-attacks. Right. So like dragons and stuff can still hit into it, which I fully lament for Chewy. I'm really sorry, mate. He's a friend in my Discord that plays over in California. Unfortunately, he can still get dragons when he's behind his low linear. But yeah, I am hopeful for another FAQ. Some of the wording is a little bit bad, right? So hopefully they can kind of get that for the next one.
So we had this deep, and I mean, it ended up going to literally a democratic vote of the tournament attendees around if a dragon charges in and challenges your unit, and you have to move your unit champion, does the entrenchment blow up because it's moved, right? And some people, same thing, interpret it as yes. Some people said no. So weeks, Richy, we're going into this to debate it. And
no one paying attention to the line in the challenge rule that says if possible or if advantageous, move the unit champion.
It or
nothing
whatever.
Saying that you have to, but anyway,
we ended up going the way of the dwarves, which was no, you can accept a challenge, but they did put it in that if you decline a challenge and it has to retire, then the entrenchment drops. So basically, always accept a challenge, right? And it came down to also that they're only entrenched on the front of the unit,
which is how it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah. And after playing it, look, it can be construed as it probably does need some downsides.
So it does have a lot of downsides. So if you're playing against a very high skill player, they can 100% get around it every single time. So if they charge into you, what they'll do is they'll force a disorder charge. So they'll charge on like a building or into 2 units, and then they'll force you to clip up into them, and then the low linear obstacle goes as soon as they've clipped into you. So there are a lot of ways that people can get around it. Annoyingly, at the WTC, they just forgot to add in the bit about low linear obstacles giving cover. Like it's meant to obviously give full cover, right? So it's meant to be -2 to be shot at, but that bit got missed. So we had to play the WTC without that. So all the dwarf players had to play without cover, which was a bit of a nightmare. And another one as well, which I feel needs to be addressed in an FAQ, is artillery that's entrenched. Now, because you're skirmish, you always have to auto-align up to whatever charges you, right? But if you pivot or align, then you lose the entrenchment. So what's the point?
Even if you pivot, because pivot doesn't count as movement.
So obviously pivoting in the movement phase, doesn't count as movement. But if you
in the
align,
shooting phase,
a pivot to align, then it goes. So my question to that is, well, what's the point?
Yeah. That's a good point. That luckily that didn't really come up on ours. Well, yeah. I mean, really, it was the first showing. We had 4 X-Force players at the event. Don't think it came up too much.
I mean, look, we have plenty of fans of yours here in the Sydney community, so I'm sure it will pop up over the next little while.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah,
it'll pop up when dwarf players play against dwarf players, and they'll be like, "Right, I'm going to send my gyrocopter into your cannon."
That's exactly it.
But Richie, to your point, I mean, I went to a tournament with it. I won my first 2 games, but then got obliterated by double Chaos Dragon, double Behemoth. And I said in our last video that I think the way that it changes their play style is not even if you have to be the most skillful player, but it's literally some Dragon players are so used to just charging in red hot first turn, maybe second turn. It's like if they literally just wait that one extra turn until something else gets round into the side, the dwarf unit's done.
Well, I mean, you say this, but obviously if you guard one of your flanks, so if you've got like your flank up against a building or against a bit of terrain or something, and then obviously you can do a full reform spin around. So if you've got a flank anchored and then there's one coming around the side, you can do a full reform, kind of spin out that sideways so they can't just charge into your flank. And then obviously you can pop with the sapper in your start of your opponent's turn. So there's kind of a lot of ways around it, because obviously it's not just the start of your turn that you can entrench, it's your opponent's turn as well. So you can like full reform and then do it again. So there's a lot of play around that. Another way that you can get around that is by running 2 entrenched units right next to each other. So that's quite a good one as well. Like potentially with a cannon in the middle of them, which is fun. Max Hammer was doing that in the WTC. It was quite fun. There's a lot of play around it. It's like once you get into like super high skilled gaming, it's it gets quite crunchy, right?
Definitely. And I mean, look, no one is claiming that we are super high skill gamers. I will point that.
Well, I mean, you obviously are. You obviously are.
I think we can talk a good game, Richie, and I think that's.
I'm the 3rd ranked X-Force player in the country after one event. Thank you very much.
I'm going to point out
there's only 4 of us. Yeah.
You don't have to tell anyone that bit.
The cap numbers are interesting. I will say, Richie, only slightly facetious, you're very lucky to be on this podcast with unfortunately our other members are 1 and 2 top ogre renegades players in Australia, so we know what we're no I'm joking.
We swing for the
and
face.
I've made it to
I'm more than happy to be here, mate. At the end of the day, like when I first started the channel, the dwarves were like the worst army in the entire game, so
What do you mean were? No. Okay, so let's talk.
Well, there was one question just very quickly, and it was hobby related, Richie.
Mm-hmm.
I just noticed your scheme is actually quite, I would almost call it grim dark here.
Yes.
So what's the vibe? Is your painting style to just go as dark as possible with a touch of highlights? Is there something that's inspired this?
So, do you know what it is? It's actually because I've always wanted to paint with the Games Workshop kind of box art style, and I can't. So this is my, this is just kind of what happens, unfortunately.
I love that so much.
Yeah,
I watched it 3 times.
Yeah, this is just what happens. So basically, like my painting is super fast. Like if you look at any of my models, they're full contrast painted. And then what I'll do is I'll fully contrast, then I'll do a wash, and then I will highlight with the contrast paint and white or bone, depending on whether it's a warm color or a cold color, just to try and get them out as quickly as possible. Because I don't get me wrong, I enjoy painting. And I think if maybe I had an army where you had like a centerpiece model that you could spend loads and loads of hours on and getting that really nice, and that would be awesome. But I'm trying to paint up 160 Slayers, so I just need to try and like smash them out. Do you know what I mean? Like, but you want them to look as good as you can, though. So like I will go through like all of my dwarves from all of my armies have tattoos on them. So every single dwarf has a tattoo or multiple tattoos on their body. So I like to go in and kind of do stuff like that. But yeah, the main kind of bulk of it is just kind of contrast, though, really. And I don't know how it ends. Oh, thank you very much. Like, I don't know how they end up looking grimdark. It's not on purpose at all. It just happens.
Alex is of the school of dunking them in a puddle of oil paint.
I'm fully converted. Fully converted, which means that everything is now grimdark because it mats down.
Yeah, doesn't leave a whole lot of room for the rest of us. I mean, it's a shame, Alex, that you don't have a picture of your airship. I'm sure you've shared it with Richy at some point.
It's in the Dawi Discord.
Yeah, okay. So the airship that Alex did,
it is pretty cool. It is pretty cool,
despite the fact that its base colors oil washed, still looks absolutely fabulous. And I will credit Alex that he's getting a master,
and it weighs about 12 kilos.
It does, a master of specialized techniques. But we couldn't have you on and not get some of your thoughts around the most recent rules drop and release that we've seen in the old world, which has been around the Armies of Infamy coming in the Settra book. Now, one of these quite clearly is the Slayer faction. And Alex and I have over the last couple of days, we've been reading it and dissecting it and sort of figuring it out and seeing whether or not we've got the nuts and bolts to maybe throw it in at the 1,000 points tournament that we've got coming up. But it's pretty unique. It's the first non-undead unbreakable army. It's got these really interesting niche special rules that you need to read 2 or 3 times to sort of get your head around. I think the look snorting trolls, I love that as a rule. It's so fabulous. But that as a pre-game move that's not Vanguard is pretty spectacular. Taking Ungrim for flavor and being able to add a unit of hammerers in to making them unbreakable and making them really interesting as well. But I think 20% core with just Slayers, and it's just Slayers, right? There's not a whole lot more bandwidth. You can take 1 unit of Brothers of Grimnir. So that in mind, you mentioned you're painting 160 Slayers. What were your first impressions reading through the rules, having a look at what that Army of Infamy looked like?
Let's slip the dogs of war. No,
don't
How many games have you had now, Richy?
yeah, a few. So I love Slayers. I love Slayers. I was going to be playing Slayers anyway. Like, even if this hadn't have come out, I'd made a list for Royal Clans that was 2 blocks. It was 2 blocks of Slayers, a Gunthane, and basically just kind of all my points in that and Doomseekers and stuff. So I was going to be playing Slayers anyway. And even if the rules for this were rubbish, I was going to be playing this anyway. I don't care. Like, I'll push it. I'll try and find a list that works. Like, it's all good. I don't mind. But this army, okay, there's a little bit of like grumbling online that we didn't get much. It's the first Arcane Journal where we didn't get any like artifacts or anything. Like, obviously the Renegades got access to a couple of different types of artifacts, but we didn't get any specific artifacts to use. We didn't get any new runes or anything like that, which is, when you first look at it, is a disappointment, right? I was kind of really hopeful for, if you look back at the 6th edition rules, you would get stuff like a Skaven Slayer, which multiplied the amount of attacks, and you could have max 10 attacks on a Slayer. And you could pick random ones like Vampire Slayer and all that kind of stuff. And they've definitely toned that down. Like, they toned down the 2d6 movement for Luxnori Trolls as well. But it's when you start kind of dissecting that back and you're like, okay, that would probably be too much. I think that would be too much to have a 2d6 pre-game move with an unbreakable unit. Is probably too much. Like, I get that. Like, that's absolutely fine. Like, and And yeah, cool. They're naked, but you're going to run loads of them. Like you're going to have as many units. Like you're probably going to run as many mid-size units as you possibly can, and just clog up the board.
There's still toughness 4 with magic resist 2.
Exactly. And then what you're going to do is you're going to have as many units as humanly possible, and then loads of Doom Seekers in between. This is the thing. Yeah. So obviously you can take, I think it's 50% of your points into special, right? So the Doom Seekers are there. Doom Seekers are only 50 points each, which means you can take quite a few Doom Seekers. Now these can be loaded up into units, or you could potentially scout 2 of them. You do have to pay for that, which is a little bit annoying, but it's such fun tech. So I've been practicing with scouting the 2, and it's just hilarious. Like if you're playing into an artillery army, obviously they're like, oh, I'm playing against Slayers. I'm going to shoot my cannons at these all game. You're like, shit, I've got 2 Slayers right in front of me. Shit. Like, and if they don't do anything about it, the cannons are dead, and the cannons are dead turn.
And you don't care if they die
turn
anyway.
2.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
So Alex,
you want them to die.
Yeah, well, exactly. So Alex and I were talking this afternoon actually around. So Doom Seekers, absolutely. But here in Oz, rule of 3 is generally enforced. So it usually means that you're not going to be able to take more than 3 Doom Seekers in any given game.
So do you not play the match play guide?
We do, but comp here generally tends to follow just a little bit more around, again, the sort of spams and borderline list abuses that we've seen in the past. So there tends to be a little bit more of a, I wouldn't say even Swedish comp style, but certainly you can take X to X number of each specialist choice. But that in mind, Alex and I this afternoon were talking around, there's nothing stopping you in a 2,000 point game of loading up as many points as possible into a couple of Demon Slayers, giving them Rune of the Dishonored, scouting them in front of your opponent's army, and then ultimately just not aiming to lose, because you can very efficiently put 600 points into 2 models that may ultimately die, but at the same time, if they do die, award your opponent absolutely nothing.
So there was a chap in my Discord that had kind of theory crafted this list a couple of days ago. I don't know if you saw it actually, and it was a list that if you get tabled, you only give up 500 points, which is
But I think it's inevitable, Richy, right? Like, and we're gonna cop it again, right? Before when we turn up with these lists and go, the bloody dwarves are at it, and it's like literally I can't get 20 owed. It's either a draw at maximum for you. But yeah,
but it's not though. It's not, because your unit of 20 Slayers is sat on an objective, so that's 300 points.
Yep.
How many turns do you have to sit on that objective? So you're playing Strat 4, right? How many turns have you got to sit on that objective before you make your points back? It's not long. Like, it's really not long. And if you're spamming loads of units and you're running up the board and you're claiming every objective, suddenly if they are trying to kill you and they're smashing through you, and you only give up 500 points the entire game, but you've suddenly amassed loads of points, you've got domination on your back too, you've got your baggage train, like you could just win by getting tabled. Glorious.
But it's also assuming that you do not touch anything, which is just not going to be the case. Right?
They're not a combat army too.
I mean, another thing that Alex and I sort of talked about. Alex put something together, and I had to judiciously edit it because he gave 30 combat weapons to 26 Slayers. But you could.
It's fine.
Yeah, that's right. Using sort of 25 plus 1, which is the easiest way to get marching column until you get shot at. And if you have a handful of units, which it looks like a lot of the stuff that we've seen for Slayers is very much character heavy, sure, but your units are like 3-4 units, not a huge amount, and you're playing against an army that might pick up on MSU or might just have generically a couple of additional units. So using Luxnari Trolls, using Vanguard Strollers Runes, and then marching column 25 plus 1, and then forcing them to shoot at you, and suddenly you're out of marching column and able to get in their face. It feels like, I mean, grumbling aside online, it just doesn't feel like this is as bad as people think it is.
No, it's not. it's actually quite good. And the thing that nobody seems to realize, because there's not actually that many people that were playing with Slayers before.
Sure.
Death Blow is a big deal.
Huge.
Like, Death Blow is very, very good. People can't just throw stuff into this. Like, you're killing stuff out of initiative. You're killing stuff out of phase. So a vampire player could throw, I don't know, like Graveguard into you. Kills 20 of your Slayers, for instance. Like, goes proper hams, got all the spells off, goes absolutely nuts. Kills 20 of them. That's 20 automatic hits back at them that always wound on 4s. Like, at AP1 as well.
Yeah, that
so
still count
suddenly,
towards combat resolution for the final
still
tally.
Count towards combat res.
And you might have
because
a
you're
handful
unbreakable.
Yeah.
And you don't give a shit about any combat res going into you. So you're like, okay, whatever. And then your second unit of Slayers plows into him. And then you've got two Doom Seekers going in. Their impact hits get put against the unit champion, so they can't try and like challenge you out or anything. And then suddenly you're like, oh, I've just beat this unkillable Graveguard unit that combat specialist armies can't beat. And I've just got a load of like naked ginger guys that have just done it without trying. Like,
yeah, I think it's going to come up quite a bit as a shock to people. As you say, Richy, like we came to the exact same conclusion, which was, you know, we normally play strat locations 3 here, but with Look Snowy Trolls and the Vanguard, if you have first turn, which you're gonna get the +1, you know, unless
most of the time,
scouting.
surely,
yeah, but you're gonna just dominate those objectives, and then it's like, yeah, come on, baby, charge at me. I mean, the vampires have been dominating down here for just plonking a Graveguard unit on an objective, and just I'm done. You know, I've won the game.
Now it's our time.
Yeah. But and the other thing, I mean, you look at potentials for disruption of our particular meta. So it's a combination of ethereal, the infinite regeneration blocks, and granted, some of our local events are taking steps to try and manage that infinite regeneration, and that you can target them once per turn. One unit can be targeted once per turn, right? And that's just a community step, because they feel that it's just a little bit insane when you're getting BSB rerolls on the leadership test, when you've got three potential regens. So there's a lot to it, but you think about disruption. So all you need to get magical attacks is to have a single rune on a runic weapon, right? So there's volume of magical attacks to get through ethereal units, and then screams, but you're -2 off leadership 10. It's just it's not like you're probably beating the odds there in forcing screams in terms of rolls. And then ultimately, you know, you pay 1 point to get a 6+ ward save, and if you're anything like Alex, you're rolling 90% of ward saves when you should be doing the opposite. It's like
just microwave your dice. I don't understand what
that's right. That's right.
I mean, to be fair, so I was trying to work out like the mathematical statistics of taking that over just taking a Grugny and making sure that they're within the range of that. So it's definitely going to take some playing with, because obviously if you're running a unit of the 25+1, then that's going to be 26 points just on the ward, and then also the 6 points for the banner as well. So at that point, does that investment become too much of a trap compared to the 75 points for Grugny and then the BSB as well? But you're probably going to be taking a Dragon Slayer anyway. So at what point does that become a trap? Because by the time that you've bought that on 2 or 3 units, you might as well have just given one of your units a 5-up ward, and then the units next to them then have the 6-up ward. So I think it then comes to a point of trying to optimize what you can do. Obviously, with your meta, we've only been able to take 3 Doom Seekers is a little bit tricky, because the list, in my opinion, was written to be played to have maximum Doom Seekers. Like for only having 20% of core. And I think this might be worth broaching with your community as well, to be able to make an exception for this, considering it was obviously written in that way. Because you've only got 2 separate units that you can take, really,
and one
outside.
0 to 1.
Yeah, exactly. Outside of the 20%. So you're meant to be able to take potentially like 60%, because you could have 20% on heroes as well, right? But like, you're meant to be taking over half your army out of this special choice, where you can't. So it's definitely worth having that conversation with them, because this was 100% written with having like 5 or 6 Doomseekers running around for sure.
I think that will happen. I think that will happen. Like,
well,
again, we're being a bit probably too critical of the team because they had no idea this was coming.
Let's address them head on, John. We know you're watching. This is something to think about.
It's obvious, guys.
Richie's telling you to change it.
But no, it's an entirely valid point, and frankly, until a moment ago, something that I hadn't really thought from a thematic perspective, the dots had not quite connected. But Slayers, obviously the majority of Slayers in lore are not Slayers in big units, right? They're Slayers in individuals or small groups, and so it makes a huge amount of sense to take quite a large portion of your army in individuals, right? These are the ones that make it that far, are storied individuals that are rightly or wrongly festooned in blessings and have picked up magical artifacts and have ended up in a position. I'm a big fan, lore-wise, of the Gotrek and Felix series, the Troll Slayer series, and I'm forever devastated that they chose Brian Blessed as the Total War voice for him, because I'm not the biggest Brian Blessed fan. But either way, I think there's a lot of room for that style of character in this list. And I mean, speaking to the points denial, having Demon Slayers that are that chunky, it's not hard to make them toughness 6 and give them all of those bonus attacks and make them into true monsters. You say, dwarves don't have behemoths, but you can have a behemoth on a 25 by 25 base. Make them skirmish. It's not that hard.
No, I like something as well. Like, they've got an inbuilt D3 damage against Behemoths as well.
Yes.
So you suddenly give them the Rune of Alric the Mad, get them
and the 2+ to wound. Yeah.
Suddenly you are absolutely smashing stuff. And the thing is, like, it makes full thematic sense as well, because these Demon Slayers, they're going to be around loads of Troll Slayers who are like all the younglings, and they're just like, this is my mighty doom. So they're going to be like miles ahead, aren't they? Like running up in front of her. So the scouting to like mega Demon Slayers really makes sense.
Yeah.
Because they would be right at the front, just stood there like,
I do. I mean, with all the thoughts in mind around, they didn't necessarily give that much theme or utility choice, given, what the history of Slayer armies have looked like. I still kind of feel thematically that this is probably one of the most thematic armies of infamy that GW has released over the 18 months since the Old World has sort of been a thing. 18 months, 2 years that Old World's been a thing. So thinking we're going to put your analytic cap on now, right? So you're painting and building God knows how many Slayers. What is your thought? So we've obviously looked at this. We've said, exactly what we talked to before. You just can't kill all of them in time to potentially make that much of a difference, given that they are moving a lot quicker than you would anticipate. This is Alex's inclusion, against every handgun shot, you need 5-ish handgun shots to kill a Slayer. And I will take the challenge when Alex puts a Slayer army together to have it face the 90 outrider shots per turn that I can throw at him. But with all of this stuff in mind, what is your, Richy, what is your plan for Slayers as you move forward in terms of bringing them to events?
So if you are playing against shooting armies, there's quite a lot that you can do. So if you're moving up through cover, it gives them that -1 to hit. Now, there's a new unit that we can add in as well, which we pay a couple of points for, and we can take a unit of 10 to have skirmish and also ambush.
Yes.
But you don't need to ambush them though. So you could run a unit of 10 and just have them in front of a couple of different units, giving that unit cover. So suddenly they're -1 to hit, potentially -2 if they're
fabulous.
Like half the units blocked behind something else as well. So it's one of those armies that you're going to have to be really careful with until you get to the midboard. And then as soon as you're in the midboard, you're just like, well, either come get me or I'm going to claim your backboard.
Yeah.
So if like you're playing into Empire, if you're playing into like Cathay, something like that, like you were saying earlier, you go up in marching column, and then you get shot out of marching column because those cannons are going to rip through you. But once they've ripped through you, you're then going to be close enough to be able to charge those cannons. So you're going to be getting all of the backfield points while claiming all the objectives as well. So you need to, and the other thing as well that a lot of people don't kind of use is these Doom Seekers that are at the front. You don't care if they die. You want them to die. So what you can do as well is just have Doom Seekers in front of all of your units walking up. Then it gives the units behind cover. So suddenly if you're hitting those units on 5s and 6s, or they're going to have to designate an entire unit to try and kill the 2 or 3 Doom Seekers that are stood in front, then you're just making those people waste those shots. So you're going to have to be clever with it, 100%. It's not going to be a point-and-click army. It's going to be a really techie army. But I like that. Like, I like a challenge. I like being able to work uphill with it. And another one as well, like, just don't... Death blow is something that you really need to consider when you're doing it as well. So if like people aren't going to just be able to throw one dragon into a unit, like you're probably even going to turn down a challenge, right? You're probably going to be like, no, I'm all right, I'm going to death blow you. And then just step back and be like, they'll kill 10 dwarves. You'll potentially get 2 or 3 wounds onto a dragon. And then there's going to be a couple of Doom Seekers or Demon Slayers that are going to run into the side of the dragon and try and finish him off. So it's quite a fun army. I think people will underestimate it. I think people will really underestimate it.
Absolutely.
But my kind of plan is to flood the board, basically. So as many Doom Seekers as possible, as many heroes as possible, scouting a couple of units, having the skirmish guys there for like backfield stuff. So like if it's a baggage game, have them at the back, like stood in cover, so it's really hard to hit them. So it's -3 to shoot at them and stuff like that. They're still toughness 4. And then just having as many kind of like mid-size units as possible, just like running up. I've still yet to be decided on the Brotherhood of Grimnir. I'm not sure that they're just fucking expensive, right?
Well,
like,
I mean, they're giant. They're like each model is basically a giant slayer, right? Like that's their profile, but they're 1 point cheaper. And I think from what we were looking at, it's close order versus open order. It's they have Gromrel weapons, which may or may not make a difference to you, but it still feels. I mean, me not being a dwarf player, it still feels core giant slayers versus Brotherhood of Grimnir special. Where's the balance ultimately in
like they don't
take
score. Yeah, like they don't score. Like the best thing that they can do is obviously they get the dispel, right? So
the dispel,
your only way of getting a dispel in that unit. So
but
if you
it's
are
such a
run
premium to buy it though. It's like 22 points to upgrade the unit champion.
Not worth it.
It is. Yeah, it's not worth it unless you're paying to Illusion, right?
Sure.
Like if you're going to get Column of Crystals, you're going to get Mirage. Like I know Mirage is obviously really hard to get off nowadays, but people roll 11s and stuff. Like it happens, annoyingly. But like Column of Crystal, like I played my old Slayer army, so the Royal Clan Slayer army into Cathay, and I was on for a really good game actually. Like I'd managed to get like Mao Ying down to like 1 wound left. I'd managed to like kill a load of stuff. And then I just got Column and Crystal on one of my blocks of Slayers and was like, shit. so
now you're the one forced to roll the 11s. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So I think if you're going to use that unit, I think you kind of think of it differently. You almost use it as like a little character bus for that Dispeller. Yeah. So I think you take a minimum size unit as you possibly can and just keep it behind your other units of Slayers to be able to get that Dispel. And then suddenly it's probably about a 200 point investment for a Dispeller, which at that point isn't too bad. You're going to try and keep it out of combat because all it takes is one challenge. You've got 2 wounds, you've got no armor, and suddenly your Dispeller's dead. I think for me, that was probably one of the biggest misses, I think, with this book. They should have put the Dispel on the standard bearer. It should have been the standard is a rune and it cracks it, and that's your Dispeller, rather than the unit champion.
Or even introducing a new character. They've effectively in the Shrine Keeper introduced a new character. It's not that hard to disassociate that from the unit ultimately, right? Just to give you that option. But it's I think it's a really good point. I don't think, again, non-dwarf player, it doesn't feel ultimately worthwhile to be making that investment into a larger part of your army. Not if you're really flirting with using rare or special, ultimately you take Ungram and you take a giant group of hammerers, right? Because that feels like a lot of where the defensive points might ultimately come from.
Yeah, impossible unit to shift, like even more so than the Slayers themselves. But yes, no, I agree. I'm not a big fan of the Shrine Keeper. I do think it was a miss not to have put the 6+ ward bubble just like on the Shrine Keeper, or it buffs that enhancement as well, just to give it something as an extra oomph. But yeah, I don't think I'll be doing it. Will you be bringing Rangers or the Hammerers, Richie?
So this is something I wanted to talk about, actually, was the fact that you can take Rangers as mercenaries, which I think is quite interesting.
Yeah.
So I think potentially they have a nice bit of tech into like a singles list, 100%. So if like you're getting shot at by like Nolan, for instance, being able to have a big unit of Rangers in a line on the backboard to be able to kill this shooting threat is quite scary. Like being able to hit you on 4s at long range up to 30 inches and then wounding you on 3s. That's scary. That'll wipe a unit of Outriders a turn.
Oh, for sure.
So you can kind of almost zone out bits of the board and make it easier for your Slayers to get up. Me personally, I won't be running them because I just want to run a full thematic Slayer army. Like, be damned with how good it is. I don't care. I just want to run loads of Slayers. So the reason I'm painting the 160 is so that I can test every single different variant of the list. I'm going to paint loads more than I need to. I'm probably going to settle on a lot less than that, like maybe like 80 Slayers, for instance. But yeah, I just want to have it all there so I can just like drop in and out. And if just taking all mono Slayers, just with like Motley Crue, so obviously you can like mix up the weapons and all that kind of stuff. Like get all the giant Slayers on the front hitting with the additional hand weapons, and then the troll Slayers behind with the great weapons, getting them hitting over. Like whether that's the way to play or it's going to be with like spamming loads of smaller units, like we just don't know yet. Like I've been testing a few games of them; they feel good. They feel good. I'm enjoying them anyway, for sure, and I think a lot of people out there will enjoy them as well.
Excellent, excellent. Well, this is a great segue into my theorizing manifestation that I want to put out there.
Alex has a history, Richie, of when he and I get together to sit down and talk about Warhammer. Alex really likes to think about the future and what the future might bring to the interesting parts of Warhammer. I'm pretty sure the last conversation that we had along these lines, Alex was telling me how Kislev was right around the corner and all the things that he'd really love.
Richie, dwarves like you, dwarves were an absolute OG of mine. My biggest regret was selling my 6th edition dwarf army with all the metal longbeards and iron breakers. You know, when the game died,
worth a fortune now.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought those little pewter miniatures would be an investment?
Oh gosh. And it makes me too much. Love my dwarves. I love my demons, but I just am jamming for Kislev and the Bear Cav units coming in. So I always get in this manifestation stage where for dwarves, what I think's really missing is this Ironbreaker themed army, because we've got the Royal Clan, we've got the X-Force main dwarves, we've now got Slayers. My gut is telling me the next one on the block, bring miners back into core, baby.
I know. One sec, I've got the 6th edition buff here somewhere. Where is it? Let's have a look, because it's got all of the names for all of those, hasn't it?
The sacred texts.
Yeah. Oh no.
I think I've still got the original one too.
Oh no, I've only got the 6.5 to hand, which is the wrong one.
No.
So this is my original one with Where's the blue book?
That's too recent.
It is far too recent. Yeah, exactly. It's not that's not been approved by the Engineers Guild yet, unfortunately. But it's so yeah, I can't remember what it's called. It's the something subterranean, isn't it? I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, like that would be insane. It'd be really nice to get the Ironbreakers in core. That's definitely an army that I would enjoy playing. It's dwarves. I like playing everything. Yeah. But I think that'd be really cool. Like to be able to just have them mooching up the board with their like cheeky little free up save against shooting, I think would be really good. Because they don't need an anvil at that point either. So you could just have a few units of them, get some Iron Drakes behind them. No flying, no artillery as well. I think that'd be good fun.
Yeah. Well, I want to be with you on the Ironbreakers in core, but like when I was wishing for Hammerers in core for Royal Clans, it didn't manifest. But
it's never going to happen. The problem that we've got with like the problem that we have with Old World is that the armies that were too good in 8th edition have left this scar on everybody in the rules team, right? So dwarves and elves are just never going to be top tier armies again. Ever.
I mean, they fully removed my elves from the game. So, you know, I can't.
Well, it's because yours were even better than high elves, right? And
they were so much better. So much better.
Yeah, it's just like too many people hated playing against dwarf gun lines. What did they do? Give us the worst gun line in the entire game. Brilliant. I moan about this on every single podcast I have ever done, ever. But dwarf cannons only being strength 8 and AP2 is just ridiculous. Like it's just ludicrous. Like they could have changed one of them and they'd still be shit. Like the fact that they're AP2 and strength 8 is awful.
And we have to add, Richie, sorry, Alison, before this is going to be critical. And the dwarf engineer just re-rolling ones versus being able, the Empire getting the ballistic skill. I will never get over that. Never get over it.
Yeah, the fact that our organ gun only gets 2 artillery dice compared to 3 as well. It's you're paying the points for the extra toughness.
Let's not argue. Let's not argue about what's better, organ gun or Hellstorms. You know, they've got equally valuable propositions, and ultimately, I mean, look, with the inclusion of the what's it called? The new Army of Infamy that is the combination of Empire and Bretonnia,
Royal
which
Crowns.
we literally talked about. Thank you.
Renegade Crowns.
Renegade Crowns, which we talked about two nights ago. You can have an organ gun. Oh, sorry. An organ gun as an Empire or a Bretonian faction. You can feel the joy, but I'll savor my vanguarding Hellblaster for as long as I can as Gnome.
Yeah.
But
I think there's definitely play in that book. There's some really cool stuff that you can do. Yeah. Just like the Slayers. I think the new Renegades, there's some really, really nice little techie stuff you can do in there. And I think once people start like digging deep into that as well, there's going to be some really fun builds. I know a lot of people kind of looking at it and just being like, it's just a bit of a rubbish version of that. It's not. There's some really good stuff you can do with that, actually. I'm excited to see them on the tabletop too.
Yeah, I do feel the characters, you need to scratch the surface a little bit more around how the characters really do impact units, because we were talking about this as well, and we were thinking, okay, well, isn't it nice to have, you know, veteran sellsword infantry, which are effectively better than greatswords as core units, right? They can have full plate armor, they can have great weapons, they can have all of the shenanigans. Their weapon skill 4. It's basically the same thing as core, but supported by, you know, 2+ armor save cavalry, which is not as expensive as looking at Empire Knights or Inner Circle Knights or those sorts of things. And then you add in the characters and the really interesting impacts that they have on how your core units will play, how, you know, what magic items you can bring, depending on whether, you know, you lean into Bretonnia or Empire a little bit more. Yeah, I think once people really start, I agree with you, once people really start digging into the depths of the combinations and the interactions between magic items, of bring this character from the Empire and this character from Bretonnia and have them sort of interact with each other, I feel like there's a lot of potential there. And I was very poo-poo on it, I will say, when it first dropped. I was very
potato
poo-poo.
photos.
And it was, yes, and the classic. Squarebase does a great job in presenting their stuff. But yeah, I was very skeptical, but after spending a bit of time digesting it, I'm quite looking forward to seeing what comes out.
Do you know what it is? It's because obviously you guys haven't been dealing with it yet, but we've been having to deal with the nuclear fallout of Cathay for months now. And they are a problem army. They do need addressing. They are an absolute terror in singles tournaments. They're a terror in teams tournaments as well. They're too strong. It's not even like the army's too strong. There's just a few rules. Like the balloons have just got too many rules. They need to be brought back a bit. Yeah. Like the cannon. I think once they're brought back, it will be fine. Yeah. Because it's just everything together. Do you know what I mean? Like they can stop fly. The cannon shoot twice. The balloons, you can't catch them. The balloons will table
like
you.
It feels like an overcorrection given the limited roster, right? It feels like they've gone too far into, they're really strong because you just don't have that many units to field. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think once they get brought back and they've got a bigger roster, then I think it'll be fine. There's only a few rules that have to be taken off the balloons, and they'll just be brought back to everything else, which is fine.
Yeah.
Like, take away all of the movement shenanigans, done. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's absolutely fine. Potentially unbreakable as well, but yeah, whatever. So we've had to deal with that. So the next book that comes out, because when the Slayer rules come out, I was initially like, all I wanted, right, was the fact that you're not locked into Young Grim. That's all I wanted.
Yeah.
Because I love him. He's an amazing model. I'll probably use him as a Doomseeker, but he's so expensive for what he does.
315 points?
Yeah. Like, you can get an entire another unit of Slayers for that. So I was just like, right, I hopefully he'll go. That's my only expectation. That's all I want. And we got that. But because of Cafe's so nuts, I was reading through all the rules and I was like, didn't even get any new runes. I didn't even get an Army-wide 6 award. I was like, what's this bullshit? I was like, bullshit. And I was watching Rob and Val's video, which, like you said before, they did brilliantly. And it was, I was looking at the Mort Cult stuff. Not the Mort Cult, the Tomb King stuff. And I was these are all a bit shit as well, actually. I was like, I was expecting more from that to be able to deal, because we assumed that the power of the game, there was going to be a creep. So like my group did anyway. So we were expecting Tomb Kings to be given stuff so then they could deal with Cathay. So I don't know, like maybe, their Bo Shabti always wound on 2s, or the Bashabti become damaged D3 or something. You know, something that can deal with balloons a lot better.
Something worth spending 60 points on for a 1-use item. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I was expecting stuff like that. So then once the balloons had a natural predator, people would then stop taking the balloons, because obviously the Bashabti doing like more damage into single things wouldn't make a difference going into infantry, and it would just kind of average the game back out again. That was what I was hoping. And then you're like, oh, okay, right. So now Tomb Kings don't have anything extra to do into these, really, apart from like stopping regen and stuff. Okay, I mean, that's all right. That's one turn they're decent. Then you're reading through the Renegades and you're like, there's nothing outwardly nuts in this. And then you're like, oh, Slayers. Okay, right. There's nothing. They've got less stuff than the Royal Clans. Okay, right. But then you start to dig deeper and you're like, oh, okay, no, it is good. It is good. And this does, I think, bode quite well. So the fact that this wasn't a natural progression upwards, this makes me think that they're going to bring Cathay back down, I think.
Well, I mean, Richy, if you want to go deep on the conspiracy in the rumor forums, this book was much thicker before many months ago, and then it got stripped back.
Honestly, I'm more inclined to agree with Richie's sentiment, in that I feel that this book may have been something of a counter to the way that I think we all understand the Arcane Journals were developed, in that they were developed very much at the same time and then just staged for release over the course of the 18 months that they've been released over. Whereas I think this book is more of a response to what's around. That said, I think it's a response to what's around 8-9 months ago, rather than what's around now, which is Cathay. So I'm hopeful, Richy, that what we see who knows when a 2.0 comes. Next year is a big year for Horus Heresy and 40k. So who knows ultimately whether we see anything from GW that aligns. But I'm hopeful that maybe it does mean that the design team has a little bit more consideration for, we want it to sit at this level rather than just pumping everything up here. Because I mean, Alex and I played 40k equally for a really long time. We continued playing 40k after the end of the Old World. We did that, and I think the point at which we exited that game system was when every 6 to 12 weeks there was a rules update and a points update, and it was so every 3 months I have to sit down and pore over this 15-page document to understand where my army now sits. And a lot of these things were so dramatic in terms of change, and continue to be in you ask anyone who plays 40k now, it's just like, well, yes, I collect 9 of the available factions just to understand what I can play competitively next quarter.
I mean,
hopefully
even for people that don't play, 40k and they only play Old World, if you're a dwarf player, you understand this completely, because 1.5 targeted the crap out of dwarves, right? The only faction that was like, yeah, your best thing, No.
Nah,
Your second best thing? No.
nah. Yeah,
And we only have one person to blame, and that person's on the court. No.
That's so funny.
So
I will say one point on this, which is around the points adjustments. Good point, Alistair. I just can't see Games Workshop pulling that same system into Old World because we've got so many sub upon sub factions now that how can they even track what they've got? And now they're this new type of book. And by the way, I'm fully supportive and want them and encourage them even to look at these types of books like the Renegade Crowns, where they've gone, let's just have this idea of human, Empire and Bretonniers coming together and the Border Princes, which has never really existed outside of some Dogs of War type stuff. Someone will comment with appropriate stuff.
Or the last time we saw this was End Times, to be honest. And it was 8th edition End Times.
We don't talk about that. We don't talk about that.
But the last time we saw this was the End Times release books, where they allowed for all sorts of chimera armies, where it was, you had my favorite character out of Warhammer Fantasy, Malekith, finally achieving, what he set out to achieve and getting the Shadowfire Guard. And suddenly you could play High Elves and Dark Elves side by side and be able to do that sort of stuff. But that was also under the very clear understanding that the game system was coming to an end. So they just went, what's all the wild shit that we wanted to do, like all over the last decade? Let's just do it. Let's combine monster and character profiles. Let's throw 700-point characters into games and do all that sort of stuff. I mean, granted, a lot of that is old hat for us in the old world having experience.
Yeah. Although you are forgetting 6th edition though, right? Like you had the Cult of Slanesh, so you could take Chaos Slaneshi worshippers with the Dark Elves. And there was loads of like random little lists that you could take. Like you could take like Noblar Horde.
I feel like
you used to open the back of the book, the old 6th edition army books, and they would have like the sub.
But I also think that was an era where there was a totally different level of care in design to what we see now, where it was very much led by people who were very interested in how factions interacted in the lore and the history of the environment. And frankly, as we've gone into like 7th had a touch of it, and that probably had more respect for the lore. 8th just didn't. I mean, I think anyone who played 8th understood that was, controversial or otherwise, that was a game to sell models. And the way that games were designed, the way the competitive scene ended up, the way that End Times worked out, they were there to sell models. And it was pretty clear by the end of it. I mean, classic example of that, I played Dark Elves. Dark Elves were one of the final releases before End Times of faction review for 8th. And I think it was maybe less than 3 months between the Dark Elf release and the announcement of End Times. And if they were really serious around just wrapping up the game and everything else, why bother? Why re-release a whole? Why go through with the design process? So anyway, we're in a different place now, and hopefully, as Alex says, I mean, I think the earnings report, the general meeting
positive
that we saw, the shareholder meeting, I think it all shows that this game system is a success and will continue to be a success and is very popular and worth investing money in. So hopefully that means that the next 2 years probably sees us in a really positive place where it doesn't get a bit out of hand from the aspect of we just want to sell models to gullible people with autism. But I mean, we'll see.
It is a good strategy. It is a good strategy. I mean, they're selling nostalgia, right? One of something that I find really interesting as well is it's really nice that this game can live in the same ecosystem as Age of Sigmar, considering Age of Sigmar was created to draw in all those new players. And like the LGT had a very similar amount of Age of Sigmar players as Old World players. Sure. So the fact that they can both live in the same ecosystem and draw in the same amount of people is nuts. Like,
I think healthy.
All around the yeah, for sure. And like all around the world, events are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Like I know in England, we've like Ollie, well, not in England, in Wales, in the Principality. Ollie is running in Cardiff an event on Halloween. and that has got, I think it's like 85, 86 players going to it. So I think by
fabulous.
next year we're going to start getting into like the super major territory in the UK, where it's going to be in the hundreds.
Awesome.
And like Scott, who's on our team, the Tomb Kings player on Team England, he runs Forgotten North events up north. And every time he puts an event up, it's sold out within one day.
So like that's what we have in Sydney, Richie.
Yeah.
If you're not hot on the money and you don't have close mates, or you're not bribing the TOs, you're literally on the wait list.
At least for a handful of events. For a handful.
And how nice is that, right?
It is. It's
how
fabulous.
Nice is that? It's so good. And the fact that TOs can reliably get that many people is insane. And it only means good things for the hobby going forward. Like, it's onwards and upwards for Old World. The future is old, right?
100%. And the final point on this slide, before we get on another soapbox, is that we've had 8 books this year. I just hope we get another 8 next year. Whatever shape or form they come in will be very welcome. I hope that we do get some sort of balance update. Maybe not like another 1.5 level shift for a while, but I'd rather have them than it just be a set and forget. We'll see you in 12 months.
Maybe we get shocked and surprised, and
who knows?
And the next edition gets released in January. Who knows, right?
Who knows? Well, this is a perfect segue into our second favorite topic of all time, talking about what's absolutely haunting the local scene. We are an Aussie channel, Richie, so this is as of today, and it is not fully up to date, because I would note that the event on the weekend events haven't been posted, where Undead came first, second, and third in the GT. But interested in your views as to, is this similar to the vibes in the UK?
No.
Well, no, Cathay is missing.
Yeah. So over with us, it's Cathay, Undead. Warriors of Chaos has taken a pretty massive hit. Like, all of the dragon armies, like, dragons are nowhere near as good as they used to be. Like Tom Carley, the team the vice captain, he got into a little bit of trouble online recently. We were getting interviewed on an Italian channel, Sunshoe Tactics. Go check them out, they're awesome. Basically, he was saying that the skill that dragon generals have honed isn't as valuable as it used to be, and it's not, because you can't just run single dragons at things anymore. You've got to run double dragon or triple dragon into one unit to be able to kill it, and it's a completely different skill set. And people have adjusted. People have had the dragon as the big boogeyman since the inception of Old World, right? And people have played around that. People know what to do into that now, and I think we're seeing the time of the dragon be over, which is sad to say, because it is a skill. Like, I love seeing the dragons flying around, and it'd be a shame if people do start dropping them. But you're kind of seeing that, like, the people who are running triple dragon before are only taking double dragon. The people who are taking single dragon now have to take 2 dragons. And suddenly they've got a lot of points in one place. If one of those dragons dies, then it doesn't look good for them. So it's difficult. There's a lot of predators out there for dragons now. So we're seeing, like, the Warriors of Chaos kind of drop down. Like, I don't know. Is that got Wolves of the Sea in it as well, or is that just like the generic?
No, Wolves.
Block?
Alex is the only Wolves of the Sea player in Australia.
No, well, that's not true. I was, I know. But sorry, your question. It does have the sub factions expanded, as you can see. X Force is number 3.
Oh yeah.
In Australia,
So in England and in Europe as well, like, the Wolves of the Sea is probably the only competitive way to run Wolves to run Chaos now. Like, hyper competitively anyway. So we're seeing, like, the rise of the Wolves of the Sea, just because you can spam, you can get objectives, you can ambush on, save your points as well. Like, anything that's ambushing is really good.
One second, Richie. Sorry. So, Alex, what's your excuse?
Well, I played them in season 1 when they were, and
that was before the half time, man. Come on, they weren't warmed up yet.
Richie, we won't go there. My win rate was like 20% because I was so dedicated to the Skin Wolves. And in fact, you can tell Tom, I blame Tom for this, for getting on your podcast and talking about the characters joining the Skin Wolves. talking about it. Don't do it to your mates. Don't do this. So locally they went, oh,
So you
no,
wanted to do it, right?
No, we're not allowing that to happen.
The local environment went, no, sorry, that's not how that rule works. And it ever since has been the way that it's been translated.
Tom's fault entirely.
Yeah.
I do enjoy the fact that, obviously, it's obviously really nice that people from Games Workshop rules department do watch my channel. Like, it's awesome that they do.
Yeah.
Everything we talk about gets comped.
Yep. So I had to raw dog skin wall for the entire season until I got number 1. It took me like 4 events, and then I haven't played them since. I went to demons. Demons is easier. So.
Yeah. And then he's not won. He's not
sure.
lost. He's not lost one of 6 games with demons, Richie.
Nice. Awesome.
So,
tell you what,
does Exiles have a place in the UK meta? Does Bretonia? Is it still as so? Here it's entirely ubiquitous. Pegasus Knights, Barons, you see them every time, all the time. It's part of the reason why I made a bit of a shift towards Nuln and shooting, because there is nothing more satisfying than shooting a unit of Pegasi out of the ball, out of the sky with a unit of Outriders. So what does that look like in the UK?
Yeah, so I know that feeling. Like, Brett's have 0 game into Dwarves, right? Like, 0 game. So Brett's is still good. Like, obviously, Pash won an event with Brexiles like relatively recently, like his last event before the LGT. So they're still good. I think the majority, a lot of players are struggling with them more than before. So I would say that, like, Bretonia used to be a point and click army. They were one of the terrors. So like 6 months ago, Bretonian Exiles and Mortuary Cult, they were the ones that everyone was worried about. That shifted over now into Vampire counts, Cathay, and, well, I mean, it's still Mortuary Cult. Like, obviously everyone's just shifted the amount of Bow Shabti they take now. So instead of taking, like, people used to run like 8 before, like 2 units of 4, now they're running 20. So it's a lot more Bow Shabti to try and deal with Cathay. The problem is Cathay coming out has affected the meta. I know I'm obviously just talking about Cathay a lot, but it's affected the meta in a lot of ways that people couldn't have predicted. So Cathay coming out means that all of the Tomb Kings players are going, we need to go max Bow Shabti. And then once you go max Bow Shabti, suddenly Bretonia can't play into Mort Cult anymore, because they'll just one-tap the units of Pegasus. They'll one-tap all of the units of Knights. And then as soon as you do that, suddenly Behemoths aren't as good anymore, because you've got 20 Bow Shabti shots coming at 1 dragon. Pop, it's just going to pop it straight away. So there's been like loads of little knock-on effects. The Expeditionary Force, I think in England, is a little bit lower, I think, because it has 0 game into Cathay Balloons, like 0 game into that whatsoever, unfortunately. But outside of that, like, it's obviously it is doing well into the other armies. Like, obviously it can do really well into the multiple dragon armies. It can do really well into Bretonia and a lot of the other ones as well. What else have you got in here? The Empire of Man download. So I think Nuln is potentially our like 2nd or 3rd ranked army in the UK at the moment. They're doing really well at the moment.
Does it follow that archetype of leaning really heavily into Squinsoffins and Outriders, or is it a little bit more
you go Brap, right? You go Brap. And obviously the fact you can give magical shooting as well means you can deal with like the Banshees and like ethereal stuff, like dealing with the Hex Wraiths, because they're a nuisance. So yeah, like they're really strong. Like, I really like them. Like, if they go into an army that they can deal with it really well. They're one of those armies that can push out those big scores, like 20-0s. So I don't know how you run your events over there. I don't know if they're win-loss draw or they're a 20-0 or they're
usually battle points based. No, so they are 20-0. So
I personally prefer that. Like, me and Tom are running the next 2 UKTC events. We were gonna take over them full time, but Rich, who ran the LGT, did such a good job. We're gonna leave them with him. We're just gonna run the next 2. Then from next year, Mitch Manclow is gonna take over the UKTC entirely over here. Just because the only reason we took on the UKTC here is that we wanted it run with the right kind of attitude. There, it's about fun, it's about hard games, but obviously everyone just enjoying themselves.
I so appreciate that. Yep.
Yeah, and Rich did such a good job. We're kind of like, we're not needed. The only reason we took it on is because we wanted to make sure that it was run like that, and it is. He's done a great job. I'm really proud of him. So he's going to take that on going forward. I kind of segued off then. What were we talking about?
Well, we were berating the non-players.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. So the next two events, sorry, miles away then. I was like, Rich did really well. So the next two events that we're running are going to be the win-loss draw, basically.
Okay, sure.
Because that's easier for like newer players, and the UKTC is more about getting more people into the hobby. So more people appreciate in the UK the win-loss draw. I personally prefer 20-0 because I think for me personally, you can fish out those higher scores, right? Like, so in so before 1.5, I managed to get third place with Expeditionary Force. I didn't lose a game, but I didn't win big. So I got third place with Expeditionary Force, this pre-Sapper, pre all of this stuff, into the absolute horror show that was like the dragons and all that kind of stuff. And I was really proud of that. I think if it was win-loss draw, I would have come second, I think. So obviously it would have come a little bit higher. But 20-0, like, it really felt like it earned that third position. And I think that's something that's it's really good with the 20-0 scoring system. Whereas, so someone who loses all 5 of their games, if they manage to lose not too bad, they can actually kind of crawl back up the rankings. So I think there's definitely an argument for both systems. But yeah, no, I do like a bit of a cheeky 20-0 for sure.
I agree with you. I mean, we've had conversations around how events should be organized in terms of not just setting sort of basic expectations about approaches and rules and interactions and all those sorts of things, but also around the systems used to determine who's going to win. It's one of the reasons why. So our focus as both TOs, having resurrected that side of ourselves after a decade, our focus is around community growth and making it easy entryways into events. It's why we're going to focus a lot on doubles. We ran a doubles event that was very successful. We had 22 players come along to our doubles event not too long ago, which, as far as Sydney goes, is actually probably on the higher side of expected attendees. But that was very much win-loss draw, because there are, we have the match play guide to help us determine how games are won now, and we have an objective system that is pretty clear cut in terms of what you need to do to win. We've got emphasis on core. We've got really interesting interactions. Part of our love for the game, though, are all the different and interesting things, like in 6th Ed or like in any previous edition, where you can introduce different aspects to the games. And part of what's important to us, not just from what does a GT series look like in Australia, but what does a community series look like? So what does it mean to have a game series focused on narrative, or a game series focused on something that's not explicitly who's just going to end up winning? That's very important to us, and it's really refreshing for me personally to hear that part of what you guys look at that GT level is experience. Because, I mean, I'm going to upset maybe Alex and some other people. Historically, here in Australia, the GT level organization is very much around who ranks where, who brings what, ultimately what matches you get, and then who just ekes out those points to end up at the top, not who's having the experiences, who's part of the community, how are we helping this grow, how are we helping this develop it. And I'm generalizing and being a bit reductive, but it tends to be a little bit more focused at, well, who's the cream of the crop, who's the 5-0s, who's the people who've ended up there. So I very much appreciate, and I'm ever so slightly jealous that we don't have a Richy living in Australia to help us drive towards GT excellence in the same way.
Well, maybe one day. Can I just quickly interject? Yeah, maybe it is you. Can I just quickly interject? So a really interesting one as well.
I have 2 small kids. It's not me. Go on.
A point that I really want to get across about the WTC, going back from the 2 hours ago from when we started this, you would expect at that kind of level that the games would be like horror shows, right? Like, you'd expect playing into other teams that it's going to be gotcha-y and gamey and all this kind of stuff. They were some of the nicest games of Warhammer I've ever had. My final game, I played into Cathay against the Belgian player. This is for the win of the tournament. We're only a couple of points apart. This is high stakes Warhammer. The person that, like, the team that wins this is going to be the world championship, like going to be the world champions for a year. Our game was so nice. Like, literally, I'll be like, oh, I forgot to move my cannon. I can't see you. I'm not going to shoot it. And he's like, no, you can if you want. You can move it. And I was like, no, it's my fault. I'm not going to shoot it, mate. And then he'd do something over there and he'd be like, oh, I've just made myself 0.2 mil out. I'm not going to shoot it. I'm not going to use the weapon, though. It's fine. Like, it was such a gentlemanly game of Warhammer. Like, the entire final round was like that. Every single player. And it was just so nice to see. Like, it was honestly amazing. Like, there were some of the nicest games of Warhammer that I've ever had, with the highest stakes, which kind of makes all of these gamey people at tournaments kind of look a bit stupid, right?
Yeah, I think generally, you know, and we've spoken about it a few times. Most of those behaviors may have been, you know, institutionalized in previous editions, and so when people come back to the game, they might still be going, okay, I'm coming to an event. Let's just go in there and we might do a got you or hold you to a, you know, you can't take back and so forth. Whereas
I disagree with that so badly.
Like, so do we.
Richy.
I ranted about it for 20 minutes in a previous episode. Absolutely, yeah.
The positive out of this, Richy, is that probably most of the time now, when you come to these 40-player events, they openly start with this gambit statement, which basically says, you know, the expectation is that takebacks are allowed within reason. Of course, you can't take something back from 3 turns ago and whatnot, but you know, you can't. It's a 2-player game. The expectation is that, you know, it help your opponent. You know, you misstep, you didn't cast your spells, for example. Did you want to cast a spell before you do your charge? And that's the expectation. And if you're not doing that, they will cop you for sports.
Yeah,
it is.
I completely agree with that. It's such a big. You're entering into a social contract when you play against someone that you're both meant to be having a good time. And I think if you go out of your way to make sure the opponent doesn't have a good time, you shouldn't be playing Warhammer, in my opinion. This is a game. We do this in our free time. We do this in our hobby to enjoy ourselves. If you're actively trying to make people lose enjoyment just for your own personal gain, then I don't think you should be in this community anyway, in my opinion.
And I think that's a fabulous way for us to snip a short and the episode. No, I couldn't agree more. I think there's we collectively talk a lot about legacy in the future of the game, as I mentioned before. So what do we want that to look like? And I remember a time 15 years ago, nearly 20 years ago, where we were the kids at the table. And there was a lot of that stretching of behaviors either way. I mean, Alex will tell you, I was not the most helpful or nice person to play against, particularly in 40K.
Bad moments.
When I'd turn up with my vulture gunships, and poor Alex's Dark Elder didn't stand a chance. But I think there's room for that, an exploration of that and what that looks like. But as people who have played the game, as people who have organized events, as people who want the game to be sustained into the future and have a future, there is a level of responsibility that means that you actually need to behave like the adult you are. And it is a shame. It's a distinct shame that we still see people not behaving like adults in the way that you would expect them to at quite significant events. But that said, it is a far cry from what it was a decade ago.
Yeah.
And the more that we play, the more that we create a community, the more that we have global voices like yours talking around the positive side of the hobby and the community and events, I think it all leads us to a really bright place, which is extremely positive because as I mentioned before, I have 2 small kids. I'd really love for my kids in a little while to sort of get that love for tabletop gaming. I know they won't, and I know they'll drive me away and they'll do things differently and I'll be terribly disappointed. But I like to have that shining goal in the future. But Alex, I think we might be nearing time, and Richy, we very much appreciate you being here. Alex, I'll give you one more chance. Is there anything you want to ask of Richy or mention or raise before we wrap up?
No, I think we've covered a lot in the almost 2 hours, and we're thankful for that. We'll leave you for the Europeans to dissect you further on the WTC. But I think if I can speak for mostly the community down here in Australia, we're very much fully supportive of the UK podcasting scene. Could I say that? Yourself, Ed. Obviously the Squarebase, Rob from Squarebase and Val and whatnot. We're full fanboys on there because we often make this joke, Richy, that Australia's biggest contribution to Warhammer is our podcasting community. We have more podcasters than players.
I mean, you definitely do.
It speaks to how disparate we are and how alienated we are from each other that every major city has to have two or three
British heritage.
That's it, yeah. That's it. No, I love it. No, thank you very much. Obviously, we try our hardest to just try and get the positive messages out there and show what the game's really like. So obviously, people watching that from across the world is greatly appreciated. So thank you very much for everybody watching. Before I go, I'd just like to say a massive congratulations to the rest of my team for how we did at WTC. You all played absolutely amazing, and for all of our opponents and everybody at the WTC. It was probably one of the best weekends of my life. So yeah, going forward, thank you so much for having me on the channel, guys, and hopefully everybody enjoys playing with their Slayers.
I'm sure they will. I'm getting a little thing at the top of my screen. I hope can you hear me very quickly before I wrap up? Yeah. Fabulous. Okay, because the last time I did this, Alex claimed that he couldn't hear me. But
to get rid of you.
Yeah, that's right. The perfect way to end the episode. But look, Richy, thank you so much for coming and having a chat with us. We very much appreciate it. We will drop the link. Not that anyone needs to know where to find you or who you are, but we will drop the link to Dawi After Dark in the show notes for anyone who is listening on a platform and not viewing us on YouTube. But again, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you, Alex, for setting this up in the first place and for your ultimate fandom of everything dwarves, which allow us to have such fascinating conversations. But we will wrap up there. Thank you if you've made it this far. Big thank you to, again, all of our patrons that have helped us to this point be able to continue to pay for Riverside without having to fork money out of our own pockets. And thank you, of course, to 25 Creative for all of our graphic support in creating the wonderful corporate PowerPoint packs, which maybe belie our age and occupation, but a great way for us to talk through content. But we'll leave it there. Thank you so much. This is episode 13 of the Old World Behemoths podcast. Thank you again, Richy. An absolute pleasure. And we will catch you all next time.
Good night.
Good night.